Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this live stream event, the first of the year for Caroline Chisholm College. Welcome to our parents and carers of students in Year 11 and students themselves who may be joining us tonight, either via the Zoom link that we sent out earlier or via Facebook Live. All the way through tonight's presentation, we invite you to engage with us by asking questions, either using the chat function in Zoom or commenting through our Facebook page. We're really glad that you can be with us on this special occasion. And tonight we want to pay our respects to the traditional custodians of the land. We are on the land of the Mulgoa clan of the Darug Nation, and we honour the fact that this land has been cared for thousands of years by the Darug people. We honour their traditional custodianship, we honour their heritage, we honour their history. And we understand that Black history is Australian history. And Caroline Chisholm College commits itself to working towards reconciliation for all Australians, Indigenous and non-Indigenous. And so tonight, I'm really pleased to be joined on the panel by my colleagues who will help us to navigate some of the tips and advice with you that will help you support your daughters in success in the HSC. On the far left of the screen is Nikki Alsomgeest, who is our Partnerships Manager and Pathways Coach. Hi, Nikki.
Hi, Greg.
And beside Nikki is Mrs. Deborah Scollard, who is Assistant Principal Learning. Welcome, Deb.
Good evening, everyone.
And it's my real pleasure tonight to introduce you to the new Year 11 Leader of Learning, Mary Roach. Now, we would have loved to have had a live event where you could have come into the school to meet Mary, who is largely responsible for the well-being of your daughters and will be over the next 2 years. But it's great to have Mary with us. Welcome, Mary.
Thank you very much.
And we thought it'd be a great way tonight so that we put you in the picture of who's looking after your girls for the next couple of years, to give Mary a few minutes to speak to you about herself and about her hopes and dreams for your daughters. So over to you, Mary.
Thank you. Good evening, parents and carers. I'm Mary Roach, leader of Year 11 Leader of Learning. I'm delighted to have joined the Caroline Chisholm community from the beginning of this year as a Year 11 leader and teaching chemistry for senior students. I will be working closely with your daughter along with the Year 11 pastoral care team. Parents, you may have read the welcome letter sent out earlier via the college website, wherein I introduced the Year 11 homeroom team. We are fortunate to have the same homeroom team from last year. Along with the assistant year leader, Kim Ware, I will assist students in managing the learning each day. Working together with the subject teachers and the support staff, I can ensure that the best possible learning environment is provided for your daughter. The pastoral care program is based on the positive psychology approach developed by Martin Seligman. Our lessons are focused on identifying the character strengths that makes each student unique and developing specific skills to strengthen the relationships, to be able to face challenges in life, and to enhance their personal resilience. Year 11 have completed the character strengths survey and identified top 5 character strengths. I believe that knowing the strengths is important in enhancing the learning experiences and the well-being. We have challenged your daughters to identify ways in which they can use their character strengths. I encourage you to talk to your daughter about her character strengths, the goals that she would like to achieve, and the ways in which she is planning to achieve them. Over the next 2 years, Year 11 students can be overwhelmed with new challenges, learning new content, and completing assessment tasks. These are the times when the cooperation of parents and carers becomes paramount, mainly for the success of your daughter's education. To my Year 11 cohort, to achieve your goals and to develop into a Chisholm girl, you will need perseverance and grit to push through, just like Caroline Chisholm, resilience to bounce back from failure and to never give up on your dreams. Take responsibility for your learning. Always ask questions in class, clarification of assessment tasks. If you're unsure about a particular concept or what is required for an assessment task, always ask for clarification. All teachers at this college are open to giving feedback, so always hand in drafts wherever possible, and most importantly, be proactive in applying the feedback that you receive. Utilize your class time and study time effectively and complete all the works set for your assessment task on time. Now, to do this effectively, you will need to get organized. As already shared by Ms. Collab, the Assistant Principal of Learning, access the Year 11 assessment plan and map out your assessment tasks. And make sure you display it in an area where you can check regularly at home. Prioritize your tasks and break them down into smaller manageable steps. Now, the key is to start tasks early and not to leave them until a couple of days or night before the due date. The expectations of Year 11 are much higher compared to the Year 10 class. So there is a period of adjustment that you will find, and during this time you'll find the pace of the lessons become much faster. So students may have to catch up on work and other extracurricular commitments, and so it is important to find that balance. So you will need to look after yourself. So make sure you're eating well, spending more time with family and friends, and getting enough sleep each night. So which means putting away your phone and devices and try to find the time to exercise throughout the week. At the college, we continue to have high expectations for Year 11, and we will challenge the girls to give their best in everything that they do. So with your assistance at home, we can work together in partnership to ensure your daughter reaches her full potential. If you have any concerns regarding your daughter, please contact us. If they're specific to a particular subject, contact the class teacher or the relevant leader of learning. Alternatively, if the matter is of a pastoral nature, you can contact the homeroom teacher or myself as soon as possible to ensure that the matter is addressed as effectively as possible. I would like to thank all the staff. I'm sorry, on behalf of all the staff at Caroline Chisholm, I wish your daughter every success during her journey over the next 2 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. And as you heard in Mary's address, we are open to that relationship. You'll be hearing more about our partnership with you towards the end of this session. In fact, we'll be picking up a lot of the themes that Mary presented in her address, because it's important that you have real clarity around how we're going to work together for the sake of your daughters. So when we think about Year 11 and 12, it reminds me of the fact that we are first and foremost a Catholic school. And we believe and follow the teachings of Jesus Christ in the gospel. And one of my favorite passages from the Gospel of John is that Jesus reminds us that he came that we may have life and have it to the full. And we really see as our job, particularly in these critical years of Year 11 and 12, of building a bridge into your daughter's future and working with you and with her strengths to make sure that by the time she leaves here, she is a confident, lifelong learner who can flourish and live life abundantly. And to do that, there are a lot of supports in place. And one of those key supports is that we'll be working with our partnership manager, Nikki, and Pathways coaches, Nikki and Cara, to help work with those strengths, as Mary said, to try and plan out what the future might look like for your daughters. Now, we better start, because not many schools have Pathways coaches. We better start with a bit of a definition, Nikki, if that's all right. What is a Pathways coach and what does a Pathways coach do?
Oh, gee, Greg, there's a whole realm of things that we do, but mostly we're working with the girls, looking at identifying their strengths, like Mary talked about, but not just their character strengths, their other, strengths academically or outside of school, and what they're really interested in and interested in exploring. And we try to give them opportunities to learn more about different career paths or things that they might, want to look into a little bit further. We also connect them with people from outside the school, so we're building that network all the time. So looking at mentors, people who can give them information about industries, and further education. So it's really, it's a really exciting and varied role. I'm loving it, but lots going on.
Okay, so most of our students end up wanting to go to university. Not that everyone has to, but that tends to be the destination for most of our students. And you worked with our recently graduated Year 12 students.
Yeah, what an honour.
And how did you and Cara support them? What did that look like?
It looked like exploring courses, but also looking at what sort of courses led to what types of careers or career opportunities. It also looked at things like the whole university process, so applying for bonus points and adjustment factors, scholarships, just everything that's involved. And you know, many of our families have never had anyone go to university, so you know, it's a bit of a minefield, and we explore it, you know, quite in depth with each individual student, and sometimes there's a whole cohort.
So it's a bit more complicated than just getting an ATAR and going to university.
Oh yeah, it's way more complicated than that. And one of the really exciting things that I experienced last year in my first year in the role was looking at all those early entry programs and how exciting that was for the girls to be getting offers before they even sat their HSC.
So what percentage of our Year 12 students who wanted to go to university were able to be admitted to a program before they sat their HSC?
So of the girls in our cohort, our Year 12 cohort last year who wanted to go to university, 70% of them received at least one offer before they sat a single exam.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that would take a lot of stress off them and off their families, because I know that's something that the parents certainly worry about, is will their daughter be able to continue their learning if university is where they're headed and it's very competitive. So more than 70% of our students were able to receive those early offers.
Yeah, and while it takes the pressure off, it doesn't mean that they back off.
No.
So, you know, they really ramp up then, because they go, okay, this is where I'm headed and this is what I need to do to prepare for that.
Yeah.
You know, I think there's a bit of a fear that the girls will sort of take the foot off the pedal and coast a little bit, but it's not what it's about.
Yeah. So mums and dads and carers might be listening to Nikki speak tonight and think about your own daughter and think, well, she doesn't have a clue what she wants to do yet, let alone what university she'd like to go to or what course she would like to study. And we want to give you the encouragement tonight that that's perfectly okay. We're going to have a quick chat about 3 myths that we hear quite often in speaking to students and parents. What's the first myth, Nikki?
Oh, so today's decisions determine your whole life. You know, I feel like there should be like a dun, dun, dun.
Some dramatic music. So last year your daughters made their subject selections for their Year 11, 12 subjects, and I know that there was a lot of stress around that time of year. And Deborah, you would have heard a lot of that as students were talking to you constantly about having to get into this course because that will determine their pathway. Did you always want to be a teacher?
I didn't always want to be a teacher, and I think it's important to explore all of the options and give yourself the freedom to change your mind and explore something and see if it fits before you decide definitely on a path. Sometimes you just don't know where you want to go, and that's okay.
Yeah, I know we often speak to the girls about you don't have to make a lifelong plan, just make a plan for the next couple of years. And for some of our students who are struggling with motivation, it might be just make a plan for the next week. Or if you're sitting at home trying to encourage your daughter to get some study done, it might be just make a plan for the next 20 minutes. So your future is 20 minutes away as well as it is 5 or 6 years away. How about another myth, Nikki?
Oh, you should know by now.
You should know by now what you want to do.
Oh, look, Greg, I'm 47 and I still don't know what I want to do.
I agree.
How about you, Mrs. Scholar?
Sometimes I'm not sure if I've decided yet either.
Well, you do very well at the careers you're choosing for the moment. But we know statistically that people will be having a lot of different career opportunities throughout their lifetime. So more important than knowing what job you're going to have or what career you're going to have, I think it's more important to know what strengths you have, which is why the strength survey is so important. Mary, did you do the strength survey yourself?
I do.
Well, I can recommend it because I can tell you that learning what our top strengths are is a great icebreaker for when you're talking to people about where they're headed. Deborah, do you know your top strengths?
I do. My top strength is honesty.
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 Are you sure you're not pulling our leg with that?
I'm telling the truth.
You're telling the truth.
Absolute truth.
Nikki, your top strength?
Humour, sense of humour.
Uh-huh.
Yep,
That explains the dress you're wearing tonight.
Closely followed by leadership, so watch out.
Okay. And my top strength is curiosity. So that idea of knowing your strengths is more important than knowing what your future is going to look like. And our third myth for tonight, what's that one, Nikki?
There is only one pathway to your future plan.
Oh, that's a rare person who would say that. If you think mums and dads and carers about your own pathway into the work you're doing at the moment, I'm sure it wouldn't have been a straight line. It would have looked more like a very curly kind of path.
I don't see, like, there's no linear line. Well, there is, and if there is, that's fine. But that linear line from finishing up at Caroline Chisholm to ending up in a
Dream job.
It's pretty unrealistic. You know, take the scenic route
Mm-hmm.
and look at all the opportunities that can lead you still to that same end goal.
Yes.
And go down some dead-end streets too, I say, because that's what life is about. You go down the wrong path and you turn around and you try something else.
Yeah. So what we're trying to do with these myths tonight is to encourage you in your conversation with your daughters to help them feel a bit free about their learning, that really developing their skills, developing their habits of learning, and developing a really deep knowledge and appreciation of their own strengths is going to set them up for success more than having them feel like they need to right now be locked into what their future is going to look like. It's not something that anyone expects. And really, when they're presenting themselves to an employer for a job in a career that they're really interested in, the employer is going to pick up on their passion for the things that they love about their life and their confidence in expressing their strengths, as much as they'll pick up on their qualifications or certificates and so on. But we've got a little way to go yet. We've got 2 years of learning ahead of us, and it is not meant to be easy. And this is something that we need to say again and again to our whole community, not just to the students. That you can see the image behind me of the learning journey. We believe that it is a journey. It can be a journey of a single lesson to try and get through a maths lesson and get some good learning happening, or it can be a journey over these whole 2 years. It's not straight path, straight to the destination. There'll be times during that 2-year journey when it will be particularly difficult. And that's okay. It's meant to be like that. And I know just in our adult lives, whenever we have to learn something new, there's some discomfort. Quite often, Deborah has students coming to her saying, I don't want to stay in the subject because it's too hard. What do you say to them, Deborah?
I say it's okay if something's too hard, because I think if our girls come to school and everything is easy and they know all of the answers before they already get here, then there's no point in being here. We've got nothing to teach them. There's nothing for them to learn. Hard work and struggle and success go together, unfortunately.
Fortunately.
Or fortunately, yes. And it's good to struggle. It's good to find things hard.
Yeah, I think so. And that goes for students at any level of learning, whether it be people who are feeling as though they're coming into year 11 having had great results already in year 10, or people who are coming into year 11 with some goals to set because there were still some gaps from year 10. The struggle will affect every single student. And Mary, you were talking in your presentation about the importance of staying healthy through that struggle. That really helps in students not giving up. Could you just repeat some of those key tips, because parents need to help their daughters with this, that'll keep our girls healthy over the coming years?
I think it is very important that they take care of their well-being each day. So which means having enough sleep and making sure they off their mobile phones and devices.
Can you say that last sentence again? I want the girls online to hear us.
Yes. So
Off their devices.
Off their devices, probably after 10 p.m. in the night. So the practice, from what I hear from the students, is like they stay awake until late night, maybe 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. on the devices. And that's not schoolwork, it's probably something else. So that's one thing they have to watch and make sure they are making sure they stay healthy each day by getting enough sleep.
And it takes some self-discipline, doesn't it? They have to sacrifice.
Self-discipline. Maybe a good start would be to, at the start of the year, making sure they're very organized, and then that gives them the time to plan what they want to do over the weekend, and that will probably help them in the afternoon.
Now, I know that the students, we all are to an extent, kind of attached to our devices, but something that works in some families is where there's some negotiation around that, and where a student or a girl might say to her parents, I'm going into study now, can you please mind my phone just for 40 minutes? Because after 40 minutes, I'm going to take a 10-minute break, and then I'll just be on my phone for 10 minutes, then I'll get back into it. So those sorts of give and take, a bit of reward, a bit of negotiation, tends to avoid the big fights that sometimes happen when we have to come down firm on students. So three really basic things about studying at home, and we do expect the girls to be studying at home. We expect them to be making that space in their lives in the family home for them to be able to do that study, do that homework, and prepare their assessment. And we think about it in terms of place and time and process. This is a conversation we'd really like you to have with your daughters. Where in the home are they going to do their study and their homework? What works relatively free from distractions with the resources that they need that are quite close to them? What time will they spend doing this? Now girls are very busy. Nikki, when you're talking to students about the things they're doing outside of schools, you've told me how amazed you are at how they fit everything in.
Oh, look, everything from sport to part-time work to their social activities, you know, it's amazing.
But in there, this is for the next 2 years, this has to be a priority. So it's okay to have the part-time job, but anything over 10 hours a week starts to look like it's going to have a real impact. It's great to have the sport or the cultural activities, the music lessons, the dancing in balance, and a social life, as you said earlier, Mary, it's important in balance, but schoolwork has to have a big priority over these 2 years. I think that's something that if we set up now the way that's going to work, it's much harder than trying to pull back some of that balance a little bit later on. And if I can just give you a tip about creating those good habits and avoiding the bad ones. Good habits for our students, they need to be quite visible right in front of them and quite convenient. We need to make the bad habits less visible and inconvenient. So moving things away from the study area that are going to get in the way, that sort of thing. But that's something that we're happy to talk to you about if you're struggling with, and giving Mary a call about that might be a good start. But the HSC is managed by NESA, and it's largely out of our control how the HSC works. NESA stands for the New South Wales Education Standards Authority. And so now that we're into year 11 and 12, there are rules that apply that didn't apply in the same way in year 10. So I'm going to share my screen in a minute, but Deborah, do you just want to start by talking about what some of those rules are? Away you go.
Thank you, Greg. I think it's important that we say what the rules are at the very start of the year, just so we're all on the same page. And none of these rules will come as a surprise to anybody, and none of the rules are really very exciting, but these are the rules we have to follow. The first thing about assessment tasks is that you have to do them, and they have to be done on time. That's the basic rule. You have an assessment, you do it, and you do it on time. If for some reason you can't complete your assessment task on time, say for example you're unwell, that's okay. All you need to do is follow the procedure of filling in an assessment appeal form and attaching your evidence to support your reason for not being able to do the assessment. That might be a medical certificate, for example, if you're sick. Once you return to school, you should be ready to do that assessment task, because if you're well enough to be at school, we would say that you're well enough to do that assessment task, and that completes it on time. I'd just like to mention that if you're absent the day before an assessment task is due, you also need to have an assessment appeal form. And the reason we do that is it makes it fair for everybody, so that the day before, say, a maths test, somebody doesn't take the day off and sit at home and study and cram for the whole day at the last minute and get an advantage over everybody else. So just to try and help with fairness, we say if you're away the day before an assessment task, please give us an assessment appeal form. Technology, unfortunately or fortunately, is a good thing for all of us, but failure of technology is not an excuse for not having assessment tasks done. So it's important to use Google Drive, so that if something goes wrong with your laptop or your device that you're you can access your material another way. And that way technology shouldn't really get in the way of doing the work and handling your assessment time. It's important in year 11 and 12 to be very conscious of rules around plagiarism and malpractice. The work that you submit has to be your own work. You can't plagiarise and copy it, nor can you share your work, copy somebody else's work and engage in what they deem to be malpractice. Those things are not on. You have to submit your own work. If you engage in malpractice or plagiarism, as long as you get 0 marks on that assessment task, and also we will have a discussion about how we move forward from there. If you need to have leave, just a reminder that leave has to be approved by Greg. And if that leave is approved, we make arrangements in regards to assessment tasks. If you're away and it's not approved leave, then unfortunately we don't make arrangements and the assessment tasks are due on the due date. So that's the way that works. So please be aware of that. It's probably a good idea in year 11 and 12 not to have leave during school time, because the pace of the work and the amount of things that are being covered and the skills that are being learned mean that if you're away for a week on holiday, you miss a lot of learning.
Okay, let's go a little bit closer.
Okay.
Yep.
See how that goes. So sorry, everybody. I thought that was very close. Let's see how that goes. Let me know if you keep going. With assessment tasks, sometimes they can be difficult and troublesome. And sometimes those difficulties, you feel they're getting in the way of you getting them done. And that's okay. That's pretty normal. What we ask you to do is to make sure that if you're having a difficulty, if there's a challenge that you need help with, that you ask for that help and ask for it really early on. The teachers are all here to help you get through this assessment task, to give you feedback, to help you along the way. You just have to let us know that you need that help so we can give it to you. That's how it works. That's what our job is. And teachers are really hanging out, waiting to give you help. That's what we like to do. So please ask, and ask early so we can help with that. A number of people have asked about changing subjects at the start of year 11. Sorry, people.
Okay, we'll try. Try now. But that's okay. I'll hear you from there.
Okay. I'm sorry, everybody. I'll try and make sure I speak up so you hear me from across the room. But if you've missed anything, please let me know, and I'm happy to speak to you and explain that again. Subject changes. Some people have asked, can you make some changes to your year 11 subjects? The answer is yes. If they fit on the timetable and there is room in the classes and they are appropriate changes for your pattern of study, you can make those changes, but they must be made this week. So there's a form that you need to fill in and return, and we will have a talk about those changes just to make sure we're all making the right decision, and then of course we can make those changes. After this week, we can't make any more changes for year 11 courses. We have locked those in and you study them for the whole of year 11.
Okay, so there's a lot of information there, obviously, about assessment and assessment rules. We have shared with all parents and students the assessment handbook, which contains all of those requirements in there. So you can always check that as a reference. And if you have any questions, as always, we're only too happy to communicate with you. Just want to make a point about attendance in year 11 and 12. It is really, really important that students are here for every learning day, and there are very few excuses for being away from school. I have a question on the next screen, Nikki, where if you look at the relationship between attendance and achievement, we see that there's a really good relationship, and we need students here for over 90% of the time to make sure they're getting the most out of learning. Now, when these girls were in year 10, next screen, what percentage of them do you think achieved that 90% or more attendance rate. Now, Mary, you weren't here, so we'd expect all of them, really. What percentage do you think might have achieved that over 90?
85%.
85? Hit the button, Nikki. Only 72.6% of year 10 students last year were able to make that threshold of 90% attendance. And really, that's not going to be enough for year 11 and 12. That's not enough time focusing on learning, working with other students, receiving the support of the college and of the teachers. And we really need to work on that. And the first day this year that you give your permission for your daughter to have a day away from school is the day you give her permission to ask for that every single day. And that's just not okay. We know that students are healthier when they're attending school regularly. We don't want them coming when they're actually sick, obviously. We don't want to be spreading germs. We want girls looked after and getting to the doctor. But there are very few good excuses for missing school. And as Deborah said earlier, you would need to apply to me for leave for students who are missing school for example, a sporting tournament. I know that OzTag is coming up this weekend, or for other cultural or elite activities. School family holidays should not be happening during term time across year 11 and 12. They should be scheduled for during the school holidays. There's no international travel anyway, so that shouldn't be too much of a problem. And the last thing we wanted to talk about tonight is really about our partnership with you. Now, Mary, in your comments earlier on, you spoke about partnership. And under COVID circumstances, it's going to be a little bit hard for you to get to know our parents. But I know from my own experience, what works well in a school-family partnership is that we keep our commitments to you, and you keep your commitments to us. So we commit to you tonight and always that we will follow our policies. We'll follow the assessment policies that Deborah went through. And we'll also stick by what we say we will do to support your daughters for her well-being and for her learning. We'll communicate with you regularly, and we'll try and let you know early if we've got questions or concerns that we need your help with. And in return, what we expect from you is that you would remain informed about the college. If you haven't downloaded the School Bag app to get notifications and updates, then I really do need you to do that. That is our form of communication with parents. So that's how that will work. That you stay in touch with us and know what's going on. And most critically, that you support our policies with regards to uniform, with regards to punctuality. The school has a wonderful reputation because of your support. So please don't let your daughter leave the home in the morning with a nose piercing in, or with a skirt that is too short, or in the wrong uniform because she doesn't feel like wearing it on any given day. Support our policies so that our standard of behaviour and our reputation remains fantastic. Support our policies about behaviour and respect. And reach out to us if you think there is a concern or a problem or something that you don't think's quite right. The sooner you share that with us, the sooner you ask that question, the easier it is for us to address that concern with you and to work with you towards a solution. And that's what we spend a lot of our time doing. We problem solve in year 11 and 12 because it's tricky. The curriculum stuff is tricky. The well-being stuff is tricky as well. I have two daughters, and I know that when they were little girls, we had little problems. And when they were big girls, we had big problems. And so by working closely with us, there's no problem that we can't attack together and come to a solution where your daughters can really flourish, and to live out that hope that we have for them, the hope that I started with tonight, that they'll live a life abundantly, live a life to the full, both here at the college and beyond. So, Nikki, Deborah, Mary, thank you for joining me tonight, and thank you to all of you who have joined us online. My apologies if the sound wasn't as loud as it could have been. This session has been recorded, and so hopefully we can improve the quality of the sound, and we'll pop it onto our YouTube channel and send out a link when that's available for people who weren't able to join us tonight, or if you'd like to review any of the points that we covered. So thank you for joining us, and please let us know if there's anything we can do to support your daughter in her learning journey. Good night and God bless.